can go ahead and earn interest on that. You can make money off the knowledge that you know. And if you put $20 in, you get $20 back. So, all right, guys, make sure to go check out my guy at Kalshi because you can get in on good trades like who would Trump nominate as Fed chair? Will Ali Khamenei be outed as the supreme leader? And will the U.S. confirm that aliens exist before 2027? So if you want to get in on this action, once again, go ahead and go to my partners at Kalshi. Go ahead and use the link, or you can hit the QR code above and use S.E.T Media to go ahead and get $20 when you trade 20. This is S.E.T from S.E.T Media, and shout out to Kalshi. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. Ooh. All right.
And give remarks at first.
Let's go ahead and get into the. Let's go ahead and cover the war. Let's go ahead and get into Press Secretary Leavitt. Sorry, guys, just hopped off a live. I had to get up out of there real quick. Well, I got kicked out of there, but it's all good though. It's all good.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Let's begin with some scheduling updates. Tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great states of Ohio and Kentucky, where he will tout his economic victories and detail the administration-wide efforts to continuing lowering prices to make everyday life more affordable for working Americans. The president will visit Thermo Fisher Scientific in Ohio and give remarks at Verst Logistics in Kentucky. On Thursday, President Trump and the First Lady will host a...
All right, so he's continuing the affordability tour, well, his affordability rallies, while sadly being in war with Iran, which is kind of tough because, well, you know what? Gas prices actually did go down a little bit in some places. Not here, but in some places that gas has went down at least about 10, 20 cents.
Women's History Month event in the East Room. And on Friday, the president will sign several executive orders, and we will provide more details on those later this week. As President Trump shared with the American people last night, the United States military is making tremendous strides towards achieving our military objectives for Operation Epic Fury. 10 days in, this campaign has been a resounding success thus far, and America's warriors are winning this important fight at an even faster pace than we anticipated. More than 5,000 enemy targets have been struck so far. Iran's ballistic missile attacks are down more than 90%, and their drone attacks are down by approximately 85% since the start of Operation Epic Fury. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy, and we have destroyed more than 50 Iranian naval vessels, including a major drone carrier ship. None of the regime's vessels are operating in major regional waterways, and the Iranian Navy has been assessed as combat ineffective. The trend is clear. U.S. combat capabilities are increasing and growing more lethal and dominant by the day, while the Iranian...
Now, here's the problem with that. Like, yes, Iran has just released an S-load of missiles into Israel. So the problem is that they've been saying that, oh, we're slowing them down. We're slowing them down. They're not shooting as much rockets, but they just unleashed a whole bunch of rockets into Israel, though. And I mean, here's the worst thing about it, though. Israel's actually facing fire from Lebanon and Iran, while also Israel is fighting Lebanon and Iran at the same time. So that's all part of their whole seven-front war.
Terrorist regime's ability to respond has rapidly declined. Now, the U.S. military is moving to dismantle Iran's missile production infrastructure. Our incredible B-2 bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs on deeply buried missile sites. Last night, President Trump reiterated his commitment toward keeping oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz so the United States and all of our allies can receive their energy needs. President Trump will not allow rogue Iranian terrorists to stop the freedom of navigation and the free flow of energy. Let me be clear. It is a good thing to wipe out terrorists who indiscriminately target civilians and attempt to hold the global economy hostage. And President Trump should be commended for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem, though, because, like, look, I get what Trump was trying to do with the ad insurance and ad naval protection, but the problem is that insurance is going to be paid for by the taxpayers, the American taxpayer. We're already paying about $1 billion a day for this war, and then we're also putting the naval fleets in danger. Oh, yes, and Iran just got caught because we blew them up mid-process, thank God. just got caught mining the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, mining, laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. So now it's really shut down.
As the president made unequivocally clear to the remaining elements of this terrorist regime in his statement yesterday, if they do anything to stop the flow of oil or goods within the Strait of...
Actually, man, let me show you. We're going to get back to this lady, but let me show you the BS, bro. Because CNN came out with it, and so did Al Jazeera. But yeah, this is a problem. This is a major problem.
CNN is learning Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This is according to two people familiar with the matter. It's another major complication as the world's top oil exporter warns there could be, quote, catastrophic consequences for oil markets if the conflict keeps disrupting ship and oil tanker traffic through the strait. He says beyond upending shipping and insurance, the ongoing disruption could snowball, threatening aviation, agriculture, and other industries. A short time ago, the White House repeated President Trump's promise to provide government-backed insurance as well as naval escorts to keep tankers moving. So far, those shipping companies are resisting traveling through the region while the fighting goes on. Let's talk about this now with CNN business editor at large, Richard Quest. He's also the anchor of Quest Means Business. Richard, what first do you make of this breaking news? Mines in the Strait of Hormuz happening amid the backdrop of the Trump administration.
And also, there's been 3 commercial ships that's been that was struck in the Strait of Hormuz. So yeah, we don't have I mean, I know Trump was promising us that, yeah, don't worry about the Strait of Hormuz. We got it. We'll provide protection. But yeah, 3 commercial ships hit by projectiles near the Strait of Hormuz. Like, that's what's going on. And we'll get into that video as well.
Threatening to, sort of rain down on Iran if they do anything in the strait.
What it shows clearly is how relatively, note I use that word, easy it is for Iran to cause absolute mayhem, havoc, and chaos with the global shipping. You see, they threaten of whether they actually lay the mines or not. We'll only have to wait and see. You've got the perspective of the drones and or missiles. You've got an entire choke point that you're looking at. And all that the West can do, or that President Trump and others can do, is offer these rather poor substitutes, insurance, for escorting of vessels. I spoke to the CEO earlier of Maersk Shipping, the largest in the world, and he basically said, look, you can give me all the insurance you like, but if it's not safe, I ain't sending my ships, my container ships, through the strait. And he said, and as for escorting, it's just too difficult. Now, they've got 10 ships stuck in the northern Gulf. They've got many more on the way. It gives you an idea of why what the president said yesterday might sound good in sound bites, but is very difficult to actually put into play and terribly easy to overturn.
So, I mean, taking a look at the effects of this, Richard, you have several industry experts saying if the strait remains as it is, and I mean, I know we hear the Trump administration threatening if they do anything with the strait. Well, the strait is paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
But these experts are saying
there's literally like basically zero traffic going through the Strait of Hormuz, like none at all. There's probably like one ship that went through in the past, like 24 hours, and that might have just been a naval ship. So yeah, all traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has been halted, and Iran is laid mines in the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, 3 ships then got hit by projectiles. We're not even sure if that was Iranian drones, missiles. We don't even know the details of that. So hopefully those details come out sooner or later.
With very little traffic moving through, crude could reach $150 a barrel by the end of the month. If oil is going to go that high, what kind of impact does that have on the world economy? Not just gas, but anything that's petroleum dependent.
Oh, well, let's just go through the list. Besides gasoline, transportation, fertilizer, plastics, all sorts of manufacturing, transportation. I mean, heating just for homes, pays your money, it takes your choice. Most of the oil in that part of the world goes east towards China and Southeast Asia, but the global market sets the price. And that's why, as you and I were talking yesterday, it's highly unlikely there'll be massive lines in the United States.
Somebody asked a really good question in the chat. I think it was Professor Oak. That man said, you know what? How did Iran plant mines with no navy? I thought we obliterated their navy. Yeah, it does seem like all this talk about what we've done to Iran's military capability might have just been boastful banter. Like just talking with your chest out.
But the
Making it sound
price is set globally, and therefore the US will feel the effect. Consumers in the US will be noticed for the US.
No. That's literally what happened pre-war a week ago. And then there's, today, 350 is like, and here's the thing, it was like 360 in my area, 360, not 360, 260. It was like 260 in my area. Now it is about that 320, 330. It's like, bro, literally walking backwards on the whole affordability thing. But hey, if he can end the war soon, he can probably gain some ground again.
Will feel the effect. Consumers in the US will be noticing it today. It will get worse. This idea of 150, by the way, could it happen? I've no idea. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it likely? No one knows. That is the reality here. It is simply a mass of knowns of unknowns.
The United States has hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine-laying boats near the Strait of Hormuz. That's according to a post from President Trump earlier this afternoon. He adds there, quote, with more to follow, unquote. Iran's chokehold over the Strait of Hormuz is becoming more dire by the day. Close to 15 million barrels of oil are stuck in the Gulf region, cut off from moving beyond this crucial water passage. For 20% of the world's oil, with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warning any ship will be attacked. Sources told CNN earlier this afternoon that Iran had begun laying mines in recent days. Following those reports, President Trump posted, quote, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction, unquote. That post was only about 40 minutes before his announcement that the U.S. had destroyed the 10 inactive mine-laying boats. You've probably felt the impacts of Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz from 8,000 miles away or so here in the U.S. over the last 11 days, paying an average of 56 cents more for a gallon of gas from when this war began. The president and the White House are sticking to their script that those price hikes at the pump are nothing to worry about.
The recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term. Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation.
Let's bring in CNN's Caitlin Collins, who's at the White House for us today. Caitlin, the White House press secretary fielded a bunch of questions today about the Strait of Hormuz and the rising price of oil.
Yeah, Jake, I mean, these wild swings in the oil market have been top of mind here at the White House, certainly top of mind for their voters and really for all Americans, given the numbers that you were just showing and how much the prices at the pump have changed and just the swings that we've seen based on comments made by President Trump before the markets closed, after the markets closed, a tweet from the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, earlier today, where he said and seemed to be announcing some breaking news that the United States Navy had basically taken and escorted a tanker through the Strait of Hormuz, something that the president has said for many days now is potentially an option here. But then quickly...
Oh, guys, let's not forget to double tap that screen, like the video, guys. And if you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, you can send it in a super chat. Or if you just want to support the show, you can send a super chat or a gift. Appreciate the support, guys. But let's not forget to double tap that screen and like the video.
Jake, that tweet was deleted, and the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, at that same briefing confirmed that the United States Navy has not escorted any tankers through the Strait of Hormuz yet. And so obviously that changed because it had made people quite optimistic that potentially we were going to start seeing some more traffic moving through there. And instead, Jake, only the opposite seems to be true with Iran and this reporting now that that CNN has that they are laying new mines there, with the president saying he has not personally seen reports of that, but threatening Iran should they continue to do so. One other thing that Caroline Leavitt said earlier about this prospect of the Navy escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, Jake, was that it is still an option if and when necessary. If you look at the markets, they may argue that time is now, because obviously that is what is affecting these prices, why you're seeing so much concern over what this is going to look like going forward. But right now, Jake, we know that this still has not happened yet. We did see an update from CENTCOM just a few moments ago, Jake, as I was walking over here.
And if I could just give you a quick little, like, what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. Here it is right here. This was the Strait of Hormuz. Shout out to these guys. Marine traffic. Last 24 hours. This was posted on the 10th. So about a day away. You see how like barely anything is moved past out through here? Look, there's one. There's been a couple, but after that, a lot of them has been going back. They pretty much been seeing that you can't really F with what's been going on around here. That and these actually might be Iranian ships, who knows? But yeah, there's very little traffic going through the Strait of Hormuz as we speak. But all right, though, let's go ahead and get to these 3 commercial ships that were allegedly hit. Let's go ahead and get right into it with our guys over here at Al Jazeera.
3 commercial ships have been hit by unidentified projectiles near the Strait of Hormuz. That's according to the UK Maritime Trade Operations Centre, which monitors activity in the waterway. The strait is a major international shipping route for oil and gas. Iran's Revolutionary Guard closed it shortly after the war began. Israel and the US are also bombing targets in the strait. Iranian officials have blamed the security situation on the US. About 20% of global oil supplies are transported through the waterway. Well, meanwhile, the U.S. Central Command's released images of what President Trump says are 16 Iranian vessels that the U.S. military destroyed near the Strait of Hormuz. He says they were planning to lay mines. Trump has warned of grave consequences if Iran continues to block the strait. Now, last week, President Trump said the U.S. Navy would soon begin escorting tankers. However, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, has revealed there are no plans to do so yet.
If tasked to escort, we'll look at the range of options to set the military conditions to be able to do that. And then, like we always do with every potential mission, come to the Secretary and the President with both what are the resources required, what is the command and control required, and what are the risks, and how do we mitigate those risks. So we're looking at a range of options there, and we'll figure out how to solve problems as they come to us.
And we're going to have correspondents following developments in Tehran and Doha and Washington, D.C. First, we're going to go to Zain Basrawi, who's here in Doha for us. So let's talk about these incidents with the commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Zain, what more can you tell us about the maritime security situation right now?
Well, we know since this morning there have been at least 3 separate attacks in close succession around the same place, just off the coast of the UAE and Oman, Ras Al Khaimah, in the UAE, just off the coast of those areas in the Strait of Hormuz. All 3 vessels, 1 container ship, 1 cargo ship, and a bulk carrier. And what that is those large vessels that carry unpacked dry goods like grain or coal. All of them came under some kind of attack from what they describe as an unknown projectile, an unknown explosive projectile. On the cargo vessel, it caused a fire. Now, the crews are all safe. Boats were evacuated. Investigations are underway. But what we know is that it's all happened around the same time and around the same place. Exactly what took place is unclear, but it comes after warnings by the United States that Iran might use mines, naval mines, to make the Strait of Hormuz difficult or impossible to navigate. In the same breath, they said there's no evidence of it, but attacks were launched on vessels in or around the area, Iranian vessels, they say, that could be used for such a purpose. Now, Iran in the past has said that if it is attacked, it will use the Strait of Hormuz, an economic corridor that is incredibly important to the global economy on a daily basis, really, that it will use that as a pressure point. It will choke it, and as long as it can't use it, as long as it is under attack, it will make sure that the region suffers, that this strait is blocked. It will use it as a pressure point. So that is something we are seeing. The longer this carries on, the risk to maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz simply continues.
Zain Basrawi in Doha, thank you very much indeed. We're going to go to Rosalind Jordan.
Yeah, like it does go to prove the longer this drags out, the more the economic strain is on the world, on the entire world. I mean, not just us, but the whole world is getting affected. Actually, I mean, India and I believe, what was it? Japan are the people who are going to get hit most of all, because they get a majority of their oil from out of the Strait of Hormuz. Majority of it comes out of there. So for them to be losing that is going to hit them hard, and they're going to have to try to find, new ways of getting oil. Actually, Trump done okay to India to go ahead and start buying oil again from Russia. Why? Because they're like, we're the reason why you can't get it through the Strait of Hormuz, so the least we can do is help you out by, not tariffing you for shopping with Russia when it comes to oil.
in Washington, D.C. for. So the U.S. president is saying the U.S. has hit Iranian mine-laying ships, but he's also saying there are apparently no reports of mines actually in the Strait of Hormuz. What's going on?
Well, that would seem to comport with what CENTCOM has posted on social media, some video which it says shows U.S. military forces destroying those 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels, but it does not go into any details about whether those mine-laying vessels had actually deposited any mines anywhere on the seabed in and around the Strait of Hormuz. That would be a real threat.
So pretty much like we caught these boats, but we don't know if they came back from their mission of laying out mines. We don't know if they were even laying out mines in the first place. We might have just caught them at the port and just say, hey, blow them up just in case. Which, well, I mean, look, we're at war and I ain't too mad about it. But hey, I hope that they weren't laying mines to the Strait of Hormuz, because we're not really going to find out until something happens, sadly.
To both military and commercial ship traffic through the strait. And that is an allegation which the U.S. has made many times before against why it needs to check Iran, as it were, saying that because of Iran's ability to control traffic in and out of the strait, it also has the ability to threaten that maritime traffic. And so this seems to be just another layer to the ongoing conflict between the U.S. and Iran.
Rosalind Jordan in Washington, D.C. Ros, thanks very much. We're going to go to Tohid Asadi. He's joining us now from Tehran. Okay, we've been talking about the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. What are Iranian officials saying about the attacks there?
We actually hear different messages from different Iranian officials, and the gist of the matter is that these messages are on the basis of deterrence and defiance. We've got the IRGC Navy commander in a very recent written statement on that. He came out to say that we announced from the very beginning of these confrontations, and of course we announced again that any vessel associated with the aggressors of Iran has no right to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And he continued to say that if you have doubts, come closer and try. Of course, this is not the only message. We've got Ali Larijani, the Supreme National Security Council secretary, in another message published on his X account in 5 different languages. He came out with the same strong tone to say that Strait of Hormuz will be either a strait of peace and prosperity for all, or will be a strait of defeat and suffering for warmongers. And of course, we've got Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, the Speaker of the Parliament of the country, again in a similar message of warning to say that an oil tanker crossed the Strait of Hormuz escorted by a U.S. ship, maybe on PlayStation. This is the message. These are the messages that basically we are hearing from the Iranian side. And we have to keep in mind that even before the initiation of these confrontations, the Iranian side warned against the possibility of using the Strait of Hormuz as a leverage, seeing the strategically significant role of this choke point. Now they're trying to employ this leverage in this already complicated situation. And this is obviously part and parcel of the rhetoric that we have already heard from the country. They said that in case of a U.S. attack on Iran, ahead of these attacks, of course, there is a possibility for a regional confrontation, and the confrontation could be actually extended to include the Strait of Hormuz. And this is critically important, seeing the role of this place when it comes to the energy.
And yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, it could turn into a regional fight, but it's less likely because, I mean, let's be real, if all the other Gulf states start turning aggressive, then the Strait of Hormuz is going to be completely, it's going to be completely shut down. There may be like 1 or 2 vessels being able to make it through, but at that point, we have other nations getting hostile and shooting rockets over the Strait of Hormuz and interceptors and all that good stuff, then it's going to be a pretty dangerous area to, float a boat through.
Market when it comes to the commercial aspects, and of course the very sensitive situation, seeing the military build up by the Americans in the region. This is all in all a complicated situation, as I mentioned earlier, and Iran is trying to use this strategic leverage in order to deal with the challenges that it has been facing.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is we've been saying since day one, this is what Iran was going to do. It was like the no shit strategy. And actually, I mean, shout out to gaming, because I think he also predicted that Iran was going to try to mine the Strait of Hormuz.
They will be hit by the world's most powerful military 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Moving forward, the stated objectives for Operation Epic Fury remain the same: destroy the terrorist regime's ballistic missiles, raise their Iranian missile industry to the ground, ensure their terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region, and ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. President Trump remains confident these goals will be accomplished in swift fashion. As for the oil, President Trump fully expected the rogue Iranian regime to try and disrupt the global markets. That's why President Trump and his energy team have been planning for this long before the strike and have moved quickly to address these temporary disruptions. Thus far, the Trump administration has offered political risk insurance to tankers operating in the Gulf. The Treasury temporarily waived certain oil-related sanctions, and the Commander-in-Chief has offered the U.S. Navy to escort tankers when necessary. The president and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the president's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the president is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term.
As they've been saying all over, well, right-wing media, what was it? Short-term pain for long-term gain. I'm just like, yeah, when y'all all repeat it on every right-wing platform, I mean, come on now. Yeah, y'all kind of making us a bit scared, no cap. I'm gonna be real with you. No lie there. I was like, oh, not y'all all repeating it. That's almost like kind of foreshadowing that things are gonna go y'all way. We gotta sit there and repeat the same talking point.
Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation. And we will live in a world where Iran can no longer threaten the United States or our allies with a nuclear bomb. On another matter here at home, President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in
which should not be a problem for anybody. It's like, trust me, even the Dems are having a hard time, like, kind of defending this, trying to say, well, what about the women, the married women and all this good stuff? I mean, they've been handled their paperwork, trust me, most likely before the next election or next time they got to vote. Then they're going like, well, what about the black people? And then they're making like, that's kind of like a racist argument, because then they're assuming we're broke, we're all felons, what, we can't drive to your local Bureau of Motor Vehicles? Like, come on now.
Order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots like for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice.
I'm all for that. I mean, shoot. I mean, that should have been a no-brainer. I'm not even sure why we were allowing guys just to put a wig on, keep all their testosterone, and then go into women's sports. Like, that was absolutely insane. And the Democrats had no defense for it, but it's not even happening that much. It's like, bro, the fact that it's happening at all is a problem.
But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and, frankly, Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature. So with that today, I will take your questions. Benny, thank you for being here, and why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So my first question is actually about the Save America Act. So one of the biggest things that the Democrats are saying, the claims that they're making, is that the Save America Act, it would prevent married women from voting in elections or make it harder for them. What do you have to say to those claims? Is there any validity to them, and where do you think they're getting this from?
There is zero validity to these claims, and I'm glad that you brought them up.
Honestly, it's kind of like, it's kind of messed up because like I said, their arguments is kind of belittling women and, minorities as well, which is kind of wild for the Democrats to do. But yeah, to sit there and assume, like, what about the married women and the name change and all this good stuff? And I'm like, usually they do that right after they get married or before they get married. They handle all that paperwork within that time frame. They usually don't wait until election time to be like, oh crap, I got to get my name changed on all my paperwork. Oh my goodness, I forgot. No, they usually handle that within that time frame, before or after the marriage. All right, guys. So to sit there and make that like a talking point or an argument is not a good one. I'll be honest with you. And I mean, unless these guys got married like literally on the week of an election, that's the only argument y'all really could give us, and that's unlikely.
Because you have the Democrats who have created this myth, and it has been perpetuated, unfortunately, by many in the mainstream media. Let me be very clear. The Save America Act does not prohibit anyone from voting, with the exception of illegal aliens. And the greatest way to disenfranchise American citizens from voting in American elections is to allow illegal aliens to vote, which is what Democrats want to do. We see it taking place in Democrat jurisdictions at the state and local level across this country. So the Save America Act corrects that. And as far as married women who have changed their name, if they're already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. And for the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote. Of course, they just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. And this is something that the American people, married women, and minorities, and people all across this country who Democrats are insultingly saying cannot do this, they're already doing it every day, going to the Social Security office, going to the DMV. And I think it's frankly insulting that the Democrats are saying that there's certain groups of people in this country who aren't smart enough to update their documentation to allow them to vote. Again, this is a huge myth, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address it.
Of course, and then just one more question about DHS, the funding issue. It's been 3+ weeks now. I was at the airport this morning in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was early in the morning, and one of the TSA agents, I saw her, she was kind of tearing up, she was crying, and I asked her, I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I can't make my phone payment, I can barely make my car payment that's coming up. I think a lot in the Beltway, there's so much noise between Democrats, Republicans. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. But what is the White House's message to the American people that are struggling because they're not getting that paycheck? It's take away the politics. What do you have to say to those people?
Man, I would have to say, talk to your Dems, talk to your local Democrat. I mean, call them up, because they're the ones who decided to shut down DHS because they couldn't F with ICE, because they couldn't, pretty much get reform with ICE through messing with their funding. They decided to close down the rest of DHS and make sure that all the other guys go without pay. And you're pretty much what, hurting the TSA people to what, hurt ICE when they're the ones going, when it's the TSA guys and the other guys who are going without pay, not ICE. They're all good. They're already funded all the way throughout the year because of the big beautiful bill. So Donald Trump kind of checkmated him on that when it came to ICE reforms. So let's be real. Once again, the Democrats are using the American people as leverage because they have none. So they're just going to go off the suffering that they can impose upon, well, Americans, which is sick, by the way.
President Trump wants the Department of Homeland Security. He wants TSA, he wants FEMA, he wants the brave men and women of our United States Coast Guard to receive their paychecks, and he wants this department to be fully funded and fully reopened. And so to any American out there who is struggling without a paycheck, we know there's more than 100,000 of you across the country. To any American out there who is showing up to an airport and facing incredibly long wait times and lines, call your Democrat member of Congress and tell them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's what President Trump wants to do. And it's completely ridiculous that the American people are suffering as a result of these partisan games that are being played by Democrats on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Steve.
You said the operation was going faster than anticipated. What is your current timeline for how long the war will last?
Oh, guys, let's not forget to double tap that screen, like the video, guys. Let's get more people on the conversation. Bye. Double tapping that screen. If you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, I'll be happy to read that loud and engage with it. Just $2 and up. Appreciate the support, guys. All right, let's keep it going.
So look, as you know, Steve, the president and the U.S. military's initial timeline was about 4 to 6 weeks to achieve the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury. Again, to destroy their missiles and their ability to make them, destroy their Navy, permanently deny them nuclear weapons forever, and to, of course, weaken their evil terrorist proxies in the region. We know that the U.S. military and our brave warfighters are quickly and expeditiously executing these objectives well ahead of schedule. But ultimately, the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
Does the president still want Iran's unconditional surrender?
Well, when President Trump says that Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, he's not claiming the Iranian regime is going to come out and say that themselves. What the president means is that Iran's threats will no longer be backed by a ballistic missile arsenal that protects them from building a nuclear bomb in their country. I could make an empty threat, but if I have no actions to back it up, then it's an empty threat. And so President Trump will determine when Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, when they no longer pose a credible and direct threat to the United States of America and our allies.
They never did pose a direct threat. Iran was not an immediate threat. We made them an immediate threat as soon as Israel decided to attack them, and we followed up with it. That's when they became an immediate threat. But outside of that, Iran was not an immediate threat. Ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, whatever they got, could never reach us. It was never going towards a bomb. We never see no proof of it or anything. So where is this imminent threat coming from? Oh, yes, just to sell the war.
Adriana.
Can you explain why the Energy Secretary posted and then appeared to have deleted a post on X saying that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, I was made aware of this post. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Energy Secretary about it directly. However, I know the post was taken down pretty quickly, and I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time, though, of course, that's an option the president has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
Well, now we got to make sure we run some type of analysis because, well, if it's even possible, I have to ask gaming on that one, because we're gonna have to do the scan the seafloor, because Iran might have actually mined it. Like it looks like that's what those ships were out there for. Luckily, we blew them up, but we don't know if they completed the mission or not. Like, did we blow them up in the process of doing so? Do we blow them up after the way back? And of course, there's ships that are already being attacked in the Strait of Hormuz.
Was posted erroneously. Could it be because of a staffer? What I guess, will there be any consequences for this? I know you still have to consult, but just generally speaking.
Again, I would defer you to the Department of Energy to answer that question.
And if I could just follow up really quickly.
Sure.
In terms of oil sanctions, the president said that there would be some sanctions. What that would be lifted? Would those be on Venezuela, Russia? Could you give some specifics there, and then timing for that as well?
Sure. I know it's something that the Treasury Department and the president's energy team continue to discuss. They will ultimately consult with the president before decisions are made. I don't have any announcements on new sanctions or the lifting of new sanctions for you today. Alex.
Thank you. Reuters has reported that about 150 U.S. service members have been injured so far. Can you confirm that number?
What's been confirmed by the military is pretty much, what was it? I think it was 140. Yeah, it was 140 that was injured. And I believe it was like 108 that was wounded. And I think there were some of these guys that were like wounded but already returned to battle. Let me go ahead and get the exact breakdown. But for sure, it was about 140 wounded.
Elaborate on that.
I can't confirm the exact number. I know it's within that ballpark, but I would defer you to the Pentagon for a specific number of wounded or injured thus far.
And then secondly, if I can, I wanted to ask about there was a briefing on the Capitol Hill today, and some senators came out and said they were.
Here it is. It was confirmed by the Pentagon that about 140 wounded. All right, so that's where they got it from. Now we got about 140 wounded, 8 severely injured, and 108 already returned to duty. So they was wounded, they got patched up, and now they're already back out on the field.
More convinced than ever that there would be U.S. boots on the ground. Senator Blumenthal said that. In fact, your reaction to that, and any update on President Trump's thinking about it?
Look, I would say that Democrats on Capitol Hill are clearly being quite disingenuous.
Hold on, really? Hold on, now I'm gonna have to look that up. Don't spread fake news. Dems moved the bill that would fund TSA, FEMA, and cyber defense during the partial shutdown. The Republicans blocked it. All right, I'm gonna look that one up because I didn't hear about that. All I've heard is that the Dems have stood firm on their stance to keep DHS shut down unless they get their demands for ICE. But we'll see. Actually, let me look that up. I got you, Sid. I got you. You don't be saying stuff for no
3
reason.
years ago, not a single Democrat voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's leading state sponsor of terror. Yet now, with President Trump as commander-in-chief finally taking the action that so many Democrats have called on the commander-in-chief to do for many, many years to wipe out the threat of a rogue Iranian terrorist regime, now all of a sudden Democrats are playing politics with this long-standing bipartisan policy of the United States, and 53 of them in the House recently voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's state sponsor of terror. So I wouldn't take Democrats at their word. As for boots on the ground, the president has talked about this repeatedly. Wisely, he does not rule options out as commander-in-chief. So again, I would hesitate to confirm anything that a Democrat on Capitol Hill says right now about the president's thinking. Garrett.
John, you outlined to Steve the military components of what would be involved in ending this war, but it seems like there's a political component too. The president said to Fox earlier today he doesn't believe the new Ayatollah can live in peace. He made a variety of comments suggesting that he should be involved in picking the new Iranian leader. Is the ending of this war also contingent on Iran selecting a leader that the president finds acceptable? And if so, how is that not the definition of a regime change war?
Look, as President Trump has blatantly and frankly stated, it's obviously within the best interest of the United States and the West to no longer have a radical terrorist in charge of Iran, especially as we see their reaction to Operation Epic Fury. They had their missiles turned towards our Gulf and Arab partners in the region. Again, this was a regime that chanted, or still chants, death to America. We look at the way that they are holding the entire world hostage with the restricting of the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. So the president, I think, is making quite an obvious comment. Again, as for the timeline of the military operations with respect to Iran, we have objectives that we have laid out that the commander-in-chief wants to see achieved. When they are achieved, then it will ultimately be up to the president to end this operation.
Okay, so I think you're not exactly addressing my question, though. Is that political objective also necessary for the president to decide to end this war?
Look, again, I just told you the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. When those objectives are met, the president will dictate the end of these operations when he deems that Iran no longer poses a credible threat to the United States of America. And again, it goes back to what does that unconditional surrender look like? Iran can talk all they want, and their words will be very empty when we've completely annihilated their navy, as we are doing, when we've taken out the threat of their ballistic missile capability, when we can firmly, finally ensure that they can no longer make a nuclear bomb to threaten the United States and our allies and our troops in the region. And that's what President Trump is ultimately seeking to do with respect to this operation.
All right, now I did went ahead and go ahead and looked into what Sid was talking about, and well, yeah, he's actually he's right, but here's the problem though: it's what the Dems asked to be cut off is why it looks like why the Dems, said hell nah, because this goes to appropriationsenate.gov, so it's probably the best place you can go to. See right here, and the way they broke it down was. See, this was negotiated funding of FEMA, TSA, the U.S. Coastal Guard, U.S. Secret Service, and cybersecurity, and all other important Department of Homeland Security components. Exclude funding for ICE, Customs Border Patrol, and the Office of Secretary, which I completely understand, honestly, because seeing how Chris just got outed and all that good stuff and fired, I mean, I completely understand. But you kind of see where why the Republicans said no. They were saying no because they were like, oh, no, okay, we'll give funding to all of them, but you got to take funding away from ICE, Customs Border Patrol, and the Office of the Secretary. And then we'll go ahead and do it. So, I mean, I don't know, Sid. I don't know. If they were just if they were just willing to, I don't know, give back the funding without excluding any funding from ICE or, Customs Border Patrol, I'm pretty sure the Republicans would have went along. But like I said, the Dems are kind of picking and choosing, and it's a pretty good strategy. They're saying, well, look, we can get all these other important departments open for you, and all you got to do is just close these three. I mean, come on, it's FEMA, TSA, Coast Guard, Secret Service, cybersecurity. I mean, that's that's what you could open up 5 to shut down 3. I mean, the Republicans said no, we're not doing that. Apparently, I can see where the disagreement is. All right, let's get back to it.
Political objective also necessary for the president to decide to end this war?
Look, again, I just told you the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. When those objectives are met, the president will dictate the end of these operations when he deems that Iran no longer poses a credible threat to the United States of America. And again, it goes back to what does that unconditional surrender look like? Iran can talk all they want, and their words will be very empty when we've completely annihilated their navy, as we are doing, when we've taken out the threat of their ballistic missile capability, when we can firmly, finally ensure that they can no longer make a nuclear bomb to threaten the United States and our allies and our troops in the region. And that's what President Trump is ultimately seeking to do with respect to this operation. Jennifer.
There was a shooting outside of a synagogue in Baltimore. Do you know if the president has been briefed on that? And do you have any more details on what happened?
I don't, but we certainly will get you more details, Jennifer. And I don't know if the president has briefed, but I'll check on that when I get back to the Oval Office after this. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said yesterday for the first time that he had to strike Iran because he believes that Iran was going to strike U.S. targets within 7 days. And then he bumped that down later to 3 days. Where is he getting that?
Well, that's not the first time the president has said that he chose to launch Operation Epic Fury because he felt as though Iran was going to strike the United States and our assets in the region first. Again, I addressed this in the last briefing. This was a feeling the president had based on...
Because, nobody believes that. Nobody believes, honestly, that Iran was going to strike us first. With all those military assets in the region, after they told the Gulf states, they told us that, if you attack us first, then we'll pop off. Not, we're just going to pop off F what y'all talking about. No. They literally said, if you attack us, then we'll attack y'all. Israel took it upon themselves to come to us and be like, look, we're going to attack them if you like it or not. And that means we have to go ahead and run behind Israel on this one. Basically, they're dragging us into it because we're going to leave our assets unprotected. Because, of course, Iran's going to strike our assets as well, even if it was just Israel attacking them. So it's kind of like, we got dragged into it. And as soon as Iran kind of put that out, look, if we get attacked, we're attacking everybody. Well, Israel kind of rubbed their hands together and says, well, this is the time.
Facts provided to him by his top negotiators who had been engaged with the Iranian regime in a good faith effort. The Iranian regime was lying, deceiving the United States of America, clearly trying to continue their nuclear program to create a bomb that would, of course, threaten the United States of America. Again, their ballistic missile arsenal, they were rapidly and aggressively increasing that by the month to a place where they would essentially build immunity for themselves, where a future president or President Trump would not be able to launch this incredibly successful operation. And so the president, again, as I have reiterated, and he has said, was not going to sit back and allow the Iranian regime to threaten or to attack the United States of America any longer.
But there are no U.S. leaders or Israeli leaders who are making those same claims. So is he making this up to justify his decision to go to war now?
The president is not making anything up, Nancy. He is looking at this every single day based on intelligence, based on facts, and based on intelligence that he himself and his negotiators have consumed based on their, again, negotiations with the rogue Iranian regime over the past year. And the president and his team tried in a good faith way to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't even let her get away with that. Good faith. So even when we bombed them the first time, we weren't negotiating in good faith. Like I said, we moved the goalposts every time. Every time Iran's willing to sit down and talk about their nuclear program, we sit there and we move the goalposts. They was willing to give it up before the 12-day war. And you know what? We moved the goalposts to their ballistic missiles. They told us hell no, but we'll come back. And during negotiations, well, what happened? Israel struck them. 12-day war popped off. Then we had to strike them. I mean, it's the same thing that's happening now, but now it's a more drawn out conflict. Once again, Iran comes in trying to talk about their nuclear programs. We just tell them F they sovereignty. Like, look, you don't get a nuclear program, no ballistic missiles, and you can't fund your proxies. And that was just a non-starter from the beginning. But according to Iranian foreign minister, it did seem like both parties walked away. So at this point, like I said, it seems like there may be a liar here. It's either Steve Witkoff or the Iranian foreign minister, because Steve Witkoff runs back to Trump and on Fox News and tells everybody that, they was bragging about their nuclear capability and all this wild stuff. Iranian foreign minister goes on Face the Nation and Al Jazeera and is like, no, actually, the Iranians were ready to go to zero enrichment. They're ready to give up their nuclear arms, but they were not going to talk about their missiles or their proxies. And according to what that guy said, the Iranian foreign minister, both sides walked away happy, but then a day later, the strikes happen. Crazy. But that's good faith, apparently.
To reach a diplomatic deal through peaceful means with the Iranian regime. And Iran chose this path to death and destruction. Iran wanted to attack the United States of America, and the president was not going to sit back and allow that to happen.
And that's the problem. It's really hard to sell the story of, Iran wanted to attack us. Iran wanted to attack us when we've attacked them twice without them even attacking us until now.
He was not going to sit back and allow that to happen, and everyone in this room should be grateful for it. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions for you. One has to do with a follow-up to your statement that you made at the beginning of the briefing regarding the Safe America Act.
Sure.
Yesterday, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune spoke on the effort to potentially have a filibuster broken, the rules for the filibuster broken. He said the votes aren't there, one, to nuke the filibuster, and the votes aren't there for a talking filibuster. He says that's the reality. What's your reaction to what Senator Thune said?
Look, I think President Trump, the urgency behind his need to pass the Save America Act and his desire to get this country-saving legislation passed has been made quite clear. He wants all options on the table, and he wants the Senate to move as quickly as possible through whatever means necessary.
And then secondly, just regarding the president's trip tomorrow, looking ahead, why Ohio and why Northern Kentucky?
Well, why not? These are two great states with great Americans.
Just wanted to know why they were chosen.
Great states with great Americans. The president will be joined by lawmakers from both states.
And the reason why he asked that was like, why is he going to two places that he has strong, voter support in? Ohio and Northern Kentucky. So it is a bit weird. Like, why don't you go to more places that you're kind of losing support in? Well, because, it's actually turning out that the numbers are not looking so good for the Republicans. I mean, the numbers are not looking good for Republicans in Texas, and it's starting to kind of pan out the same way in Ohio. Like even with Vivek Ramaswamy, he's starting to lose political points now. So yeah, it does seem like, bro, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but there might even be a blue wave coming to Ohio if Trump does not course correct. Like literally, he could Bush it. And what I mean by Bush it, when Bush got everybody into the war, this sunk the economy, everybody didn't even want to hear about a Republican. Like, bro, if you was a Republican back then, it's like you were just like, what? I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I don't know, what do you like the paint or something? Did you like it? But let's be real, that turned a lot of people off to the Republican Party, what Bush did. And it seems like that's what Trump is doing. He's about to Bush it.
Who he greatly admires and respects. And
like I said, he can still end the war. He can end this war today or by the end of the month, and things can be all good. But if not, and it drags out, he's going to Bush it for the Republicans.
Meeting with business owners in both of these places and talking about the economy, which is, of course, the utmost importance to him.
Caroline, thank you. Last week, the Energy Secretary issued a waiver for India to get oil, Russian oils, during this energy crisis.
Yes.
Have you spoken to President about it? What's the idea behind this?
Have I spoken to the president about it?
Yeah.
Yes, I have spoken to the president about it. And the president and the Secretary of Treasury and the whole national security team came to this decision because our allies in India, as you know, Lalit, have been good actors and have previously stopped buying sanctioned Russian oil. So as we work to appease this temporary gap of oil supply around the world because of the Iranians, we have temporarily permitted them to accept that Russian oil. And this Russian oil was already at sea. It was already out on the water. So this short-term measure, we don't believe it will provide significant.
So basically, Iran got us walking back our pressure on Russia. That's how bad it is. Like, we know we don't really have any substitutes for these other countries. Like, we can't really tell them anything, but, well, I guess you gotta go to Russia. Wow.
Financial benefit to the Russian government at this time.
I have one more question about Pakistan. You know, Pakistan.
As Russia is continuously bombarding Ukraine,